Hi, everybody. 1,393 days since Richard was murdered, and we still don't have his body. I hope you can hear me. Let's see if you can hear me. Get on here. Okay, let's see if everything is working. Looks like it's working. Okay, so let's get started. Happy Friday, right? So, like I said, it's 1,393 days since Richard was murdered, and we still don't have his body. Now, I just posted up, um, some very, very important news, and I would say that it's breaking news. I mean, been going on for a long time, and because of all the retaliation, because of all the harassment, from, and we believe that there have been nefarious, nefarious government paid people um, that have tried to derail this case. And, I think the American people need to know this. I think really people around the world need to know this, that there are nefarious government paid people that are up to no good and that have a different agenda than what they're sworn to do, than what they're paid to do. And in our son's case, today I want to talk about the CID and the Real Fit Fam El Paso and also I guess the generals. I think there is seems to me in our case from 4 years a systematic effort within our established organizations or government. I would say our government, our institutions is the right word, to take down the people that are serious about upholding their oath of office and be replaced with the up to no good, the criminal. And you see that, like today in Congress, we have all these laws every year, new laws. Oh, this is going to solve this. This is going to solve this. We have buildings, buildings full of laws and regulations. And we don't see good results. We just don't see. We have all this money going into our education system, and we don't see good results. Look at the universities. And, to me, what is, I think we've been brainwashed to think that a good result is like a super educated person, you know, instead of having ethical, hardworking people. What gets us ahead? Law abiding, ethical, hardworking people that know their trade, right? We don't have to, this is the, and I'm going to get off on a tangent a little bit here because, of course, being an educator and, education being my passion, and this is what we were trying to do when Richard went missing. We were trying to put together all of our experience and homeschooling and everything, and help those that didn't know what to do with this COVID lockdown, right? Where the schools were shut down and everything. And we were trying to help parents realize that it's okay. It's going to be okay. It's better. It's better. This is better. This is a blessing in disguise, right? And show them how to navigate through what they were going through, having their children at home. And, you know, like I said, I'm going on a tangent, and but I think it's very, very important, and it's very, very relevant through this whole thing, because Richard never went to like a school, like this organized school. He just didn't go. Uh, um, Hannah did. Because as we learned, she's the eldest, and as we learned, and Robert barely went. Um, and I'm not saying they didn't get an education, that they have not been successful. They've been super successful. They've been so successful. And what is successful, to be well rounded, ethical, um, hardworking, loyal, honorable. Uh, I'm just so blessed to have this beautiful family, dependable, and so to do well in the trade that they choose. Why is it one shoe fits everybody? It's kind of like in this medical world that we're coming into, where they want to say, oh, one Cobra strike is good for everybody. No, the that's not how it works. We're individuals, we're human beings, and some people just have talents in other areas, and others have talents in other areas. And so the whole education, 12 years of this very rigid curriculum, and and that everyone has to sit in a classroom, and it just it's just not, we're not machines, and it doesn't work. And the you don't have to believe me, you can see the results, right? You can see the results. And this is why we are dealing with the security breaches on Fort Bliss. This is why we're dealing with the unethical betrayal of our generals, the unethical betrayal of our officers, the unethical, and I really, you just have to focus on them. A lot of times the NCOs, they get the blame, right? This is what you're, no, they fall under the officers. The buck stops there, right, with the commander in chief, right? And if the 44 four-star generals and admirals are have betrayed us, and they have, there's no doubt at all. It's obvious, because we know them by their fruit, right? Look at Afghanistan. That should not be awarded. It was a disaster. And they did not bring back our weapons, our technology, being the night vision goggles. I'm really talking about the night vision goggles, and that. I'm sure there's others. But that was really a disaster that they left those behind. And they didn't just leave them behind. Um, my my guess with all of this arms trafficking and equipment trafficking is that, they're just so blatant. They sold it. They sold it over there. And that's why they couldn't pack it and bring it back, because they didn't have it. They had cash in their pockets, that they had to money launder or whatever. That's my guess. That's my opinion. Because you do not just wave your hand at Americans' money, or assets and equipment like that, and have no provisions, no plan to bring it back if you're doing your duty, right? You know them by their fruit. And, if you're paying just even halfway attention, you know that our generals are absolutely betraying us. They're up to no good. And there are security breaches everywhere. And I think that's the key word in all of this is security breaches. And in these almost 4 years now, um, it's just really been snowballing in the discovery of all of the security breaches that has surround Richard's case. A security breach within the military, of course, so security breaches all over Fort Bliss. And this is what we posted just, not even an hour ago, maybe an hour ago, was a little picture of some paperwork that, we've been having to fill out that declares that the place of death for Richard is Fort Bliss. So that's an admission that the place of death for Richard is Fort Bliss. Now, our claim is that yes, um, yes, he was killed on Fort Bliss. Okay, we've you know the Nadal Bayim thing is really really tough, but it absolutely fits. Um, the puzzle pieces have come together and really showed that Richard was killed on Fort Bliss. His body, though, was taken off of Fort Bliss, and his body was processed. His body was chopped up. His body was dismembered. And that's why some of his parts were found in Mexico. Okay. Some in the United States and some in Mexico. So for the Army to say that Richard's place of death was on Fort Bliss, yes. Um, they have to legally say that because that's what happened. That's what happened. And just give me a second. Um, so what is that? That's an admission. But what does that mean? Where are the guards? Where were the guards? Where were the cameras? Um, why weren't they reviewed? You're talking about Vanessa Guillen time. You're talking about Gregory Morales time. You're talking about the CID being under such heavy scrutiny by the disappearance of Vanessa Guillen and Gregory Morales, the death of Caleb Smither, Austin Hawk, Enrique Roman Martinez's head, you know, washing ashore. Washing ashore. No, not his body, just his head, right? Uh, we're talking about the death of Glennon Oakley Jr. being found dead in the barracks there on Fort Bliss just months before. And Richard goes missing, and they're la-di-da. They're la-di-da. La-di-da. Oh, yeah, he just left. La-di-da. No, I don't buy that for an instant. And that's why I know that Jay Paulin is a huge suspect in the murder of our son, because he came out very, very quickly. He was Richard's former first sergeant and refused to meet with us while we were there for 3 months, and invited him to come to our rallies, and he refused to come. And because he knew one look in his eyes, and I would be able to tell that, yeah, he's a major suspect for the murder. Maybe the dismemberment, maybe the dissemination of Richard's body parts. I mean, that's pretty. Uh, uh, to be suspected of that kind of action, and he is. He is a suspect in that kind of action, and many, many other crimes, is absolutely horrendous. And yet, we have the generals, and right now in this case, we haven't forgotten about the other ones, okay? Um, but right now in this case, Major General Eisenhower, uh, to cover that up, to absolutely cover that up, and to deny us justice, to deny us answers, to obstruct, to sabotage. And what do I mean by that? So this lousy, absolutely lousy general that we communicate with very kindly, but because we know that he's going to have to answer to God for what he did, for what he's doing. Um, and normally I would say, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy. I don't know. I just can't say that. I just can't say that. I know he has to answer to God for what he's done in this, for this cover up, for this evil. And what do I mean by that? So, when Richard went missing in July 2020, we were made, and I'm not joking, by the Army, by the CID, by Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, right? During the meetings, we were made the investigators in our son's case. That they really couldn't do anything unless we brought them leads. We had to bring them leads. Yeah. Um, so this is a $1 trillion military, but they don't want the trillion to go to the right places, to the American people, for the security of the American people, for the security of our service members, for the defense of our Constitution, for, um, you know, proper facilities and all of that. We got poisoned facilities. Over and over again, I've been told for 4 years, our facilities for our troops are poisonous. Um, they like to inject poison, whatever. Um, Everybody has to understand what's going on. It seems like we're being assaulted in a very devious way, in a very vicious, devious way. It's a new type of war, or is it? Or is it? Are we just stupid that we don't see how we're being assaulted, how we're being, you know, um, slowly, a death by a thousand cuts, attacked in our country, in our own country, in our own backyard. So, um, I got a little off. I get a little off. So let me go back to what's going on. And absolutely, Major General Eisenhower, James Eisenhower, is obstructing justice, is sabotaging. Because you see, we've been right all along. We knew that something terrible, something stinky, that Richard had been murdered, but we were told no, 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 no. Look, they admitted now. This is May of 2024, in the paperwork that we have gotten, that Richard died on Fort Bliss. Okay, Richard went missing in July of 2020. Okay, this is just short of 4 years. Where is the CCTV footage? Where are the guards? Where is the security that we pay lots and lots of money for? Right? On our bases, because our bases have weapons They have lots of weapons and they have lots of equipment and they have lots of ammunition and they have our most precious assets, which are our sons and daughters that volunteer to serve. And, you know, it just shows you the absolute cover up. It's not being derelict of duty. I mean, you can say derelict of duty. It's a cover up. It's on purpose. And you see that with FitFam. When you look behind FitFam, they have to have a media. The PAO, remember the PAO, Allie Payne? We were told, well, she's going to do an announcement. That's the best that we could get. And I went on live streams and said, what is this PAO? What is their announcements? Have they not come out of the 50s and 60s? I mean, it was the worst kind of announcements. I mean, you watch for 3 seconds and you're yawning or you're like, oh, what? You kind of lose track of what she's saying because of how, and it was so horrible, right? Are they that bad? No, you got FitFam. You've got the real FitFam El Paso. Who's behind it? Military officers. Military officers. What is it? Asymmetric warfare tactics? What is it? Like some kind of secret military operation behind FitFam El Paso? I mean, is that what that is? To control that area? And I was thinking about this. Uh, all this economics is kind of coming back up, and it's like this is like the broken window fallacy. You know, if you're making money on war and there's no war, maybe if there's peace, you don't like peace, you've got to break things up. How are you going to do that? You've got to create chaos to create war. You've got to create hatred to create war. And the real Fit Fam El Paso targeted our son's case and our family. 100%. And absolutely, they have been used for agendas that are not in line with the purpose of our military, with our country, with our Constitution. So, what in the world are these officers, these military officers, doing? Double dipping, double dipping and using their secret clearances and running a social media for-profit site that's up to no good. Clearly, because we have the evidence, they're up to no good against the very people of El Paso, against the country, and tampering in elections, tampering in the politics. What in the world are they doing? And what in the world are the general officers doing, letting it happen? Are they also participating in it? Are they also profiting on it? Because don't forget, we also have a plane and a flight number, and that flight went to a very interesting place. Who owned this plane? We also were able to trace the burner phones, and they went to very interesting places. And, so I think everyone already knows this because we see it all around us. We see what's happening in our justice system, and it's allowed to happen. And they will take these devious, um, up to no good individuals, and they become officers, and they will highlight them in the media, make them look cool, make them look like they're brave, make them look like they are, do have ethics, that they do their job well, you know. And you see this over and over again. You're like, Dallas Morning News, out of everyone, decided to interview Texas Hart, which is Dallas Hart's brother, which is the son of convicted criminal Leilani Hart. So they feature their own. They feature, it's, and, you know, it's so clear, it's so obvious when you start looking into it. They absolutely know who they're going to give airtime to and who they're going to make look good and who they want to make look bad. So here we have a whistleblower that comes forward in Richard's case who is ethical, who everybody loves because they're so smart. They're so smart. This is what we've been told, right? This is what our intelligence has been telling us. Oh, wonderful. I mean, even Angela Kacherga was like, is he helping you? And we're like, what in the world? What is she saying? And when you really think about it, she's saying, he is so good. When he helps you, he is a power. He's a power. And I'm like telling her, of course he's helping us. He's a whistleblower. He just put forth a report that names Tavita Nusa, Leilani Hart, that are tampering with our son's case and reporting it to the authorities, reporting it to the Army, reporting it to Merrick Garland, who, he's in big trouble. I hope he gets in big trouble, who is reporting it to the FBI. And then calls us and says, look, this is my name. I'm a judicial officer. This is what I've witnessed. Make sure you take down this name. CID Agent Tavita Nusa, who, by the way, has lost his badge and has been separated from the Army. Convicted criminal Leilani Hart. Right? We didn't know she was a convicted criminal at that time. We've been looking into her. We've had plenty of time to look into her. Take this down. They've been tampering in your son's case. I have reported this. This is in January of 2022. January of 2022. And Angela Kacherga is worried that he did that. And then she comes out with Bob Moore and El Paso Matters and El Paso Community Foundation to retaliate against the judicial officer for being a witness in Richard's case. And then Major General Eisenhower decides to prevent him from viewing the files on Fort Bliss because being a judicial officer, he has the credentials to view the files on Fort Bliss. So to obstruct the justice on Fort Bliss, I mean, obstruct it because he can do it. So he's participating with the murderers, with the cover up, with those that are given unauthorized access and tampering with Richard's file, those that are retaliating against a whistleblower, those that are using a convicted criminal as a source, and a fake soldier too. Don't forget, Carlos Mendes is a fake soldier, using that to discredit illegally, unlawfully, right? Maliciously. I mean, how many words can I give to Bob Moore? Because the pile is really high. The pile is high. Okay. Maliciously, vindictively, is obstructing, sabotaging a whistleblower in our son's case. And the Major General Eisenhower is going along with it to and adding to it to prevent the judicial officer that he worked so hard to get the credentials. And you have to understand, I've been told, because of Park University, you see, Park University and Thomas Kane, the director of emergency services, and our intelligence that we have there in El Paso, on Fort Bliss, in that area, that they love this judicial officer. They'd all go to him for help. They'd go to him for help. And that was all okay when he would help them. Oh, I got caught with a DWI. I got caught with some cocaine, or I got, caught doing this or whatever. Can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me? Right? I need this from you, or I need that from you. Oh, can you give me a class here? Come to our veterans group. Give us some of your wealth, meaning your intelligence, your knowledge. Share with us your knowledge. And they, all loved it as long as it was helping these people that were in need, right? And when Richard was in need and he stepped up, what does Bob Moore do to a judicial officer that is helping a family by reporting to the authorities what he knew, what he should do, right? What he absolutely should do. What so many haven't done, because so many absolutely knows what happened to Richard. They know what happened to Richard, but they're afraid. But a courageous judicial officer that will report that he knows that Richard, absolutely all the evidence leads that Richard was murdered. This is in January 2022. The tampering of Richard's file by a unauthorized female that was, in a sexual relationship with a CID agent. And, it was adulterous because they're both married. And then Leilani Hart is the mother. She's the one doing all the no good stuff. With, wow. It's a rough life. And she's the mother of Dallas Hart, Richard's platoon leader. And that all of that was exposed in 2022. All of that. We have brought so many leads, and it took the Army until now to say Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. And where's his body? Where's his body? Where is the CCTV footage? Where are the guards? Where is Thomas Kane answering for all of this? They've left. You see, they knew. They were shaking. They were shaking. Where is the DHS Corona, right? Jaime Corona. Where's he? Where is the Department of State General Counsel? Eric Cohen. Gone. Where's the FBI Downey? Gone. Where's Tavita Nusa? Gone. Where's Dallas Hart? Gone. Where's Jay Pollan? Gone. Where's Judge Robert Shook, the colonel from JAG? Gone. They had to shut down the JAG to us. They actually said, we're shutting it down to you. We won't answer your questions, right? They were that afraid. They were that afraid. And they had to shut down Fort Bliss, the access to the files to someone that has the credentials to look at them, that is also a witness, that is also a whistleblower. You know, you can be a witness, but when you officially complain, like, you know, we had to do an official complaint about this Jules Togonon Chan, right? We had to do an official complaint because we found out that we have officers up to no good behind the Real Fit Fam El Paso harming the El Paso area, the people of El Paso. Now, you can't just know that and not report it. You have to report it. And you have to report it to many people. And if we don't start doing that, you know, that's why things have gotten as bad as they are. That Richard could be murdered on Fort Bliss in July of 2020, and it takes till May of 2024 to get paperwork that says he's dead on Fort Bliss. Well, you know, yeah. Yeah. And we still have, you know, please do not think that now that we have the notice of death, I think this is like some kind of maneuver, that we have the notice of death, that this is, you know, it's kind of like when they gave the gate to Vanessa Guillen's family. They were like, okay, now it's over with. Go away. Leave us alone. Right? Do not think that the retaliation against us, the harassment against us, the obstruction of justice against us, what was the very first thing that happened after the notice of death? Bob Moore came out with a retaliatory story against Richard and against our family. A defamation, a twisting, an untrue. So don't think that the notice of death is like, okay, we gave them what they want and we're good to go. No, we got hit over the head right away again, so to speak, by a false story that was carried by El Paso Matters, that is owned by El Paso Community Foundation, and carried by KTSM, David Condolara, who is rubbing shoulders with Danae Katzen, right? Rolling out the red carpet for her, who is connected to Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, who then connects the dots to Walmart, but is also connected to FitFam, El Paso, also running the story, which is connected then to Bob Moore, which is connected to Lalani Hart, which is connected to Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia. And yesterday, I can't forget this. Remember yesterday? This is the biggest connection with the Walmart mass shooting. And that is that Rosa Maria Valdez's lawyer, let me see my notes here. I had to write this down. Moreno, I think his name is. Please tell me. He was on the board of El Paso Matters. Can you believe it? I just, that was like, oh, it's this way. That's why. Yes. Enrique Moreno. Enrique Moreno, who has died. And don't forget her other lawyer, Justin Underwood, places Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia right there connected with the takedown of Yvonne Rosales, which I believe is totally illegal, and I believe she is still the legal DA. She needs to put her boots on real tight and go. Gird her loins and go, because and take her rightful place, I think. Have Bill Hicks arrested. He's a usurper of the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office. And start identifying these criminals. She already knows who the criminals are. And I hope she's documented it, and then she needs to start prosecuting them. So I hope she's strong enough to do that, because the way they operate is, it's tough. You have to be, really aware of their maneuvers, because they really insult you. They say the most vile and vulgar things to you. They think they know you. They think, and they try to use those things. And, and I think that's why Richard lasted as long as he did. And I think that's why they had to resort to murdering him, because they didn't know him. They didn't know him. That he has morals, that he was raised with strong morals, with ethics, and a strong defense, and a well-being to know that it's not money that makes you successful, even though, it's not against money. But it's not that makes you successful. It's your character. It's your character. And that's why when their defamation, their bullying, their smear campaigns um, can't stand when it comes to Richard. They can't. They have nothing because you're a success when you have a character, a strong character, an ethical character, a moral character. And Boleyn, when we were communicating with Boleyn, she's like, or one of those, the audio with Richard, uh, she's saying, "You're so weird." Yeah, you know what she meant by that? That was like sweet music to my ears because in the context of that audio, it was because Richard was like, "Do not do the stripping on the FitFam or the on the internet, right? Not FitFam, but the other what a that stripping online thing is." And he's like, and these women around you, they say they respect you, but they don't. And the men, they're just horny. They just want to see you naked. And don't do it. Don't do it. And she goes, "You're so weird." So in the context of that, she's saying, "You're so ethical. You're so caring for women. You have such a good character. You're not offering me money to do things, right? Um, you're not you're not trying to just take advantage of me. You're trying to protect me. You're trying to give me a better life." That's how I took the context of that. And I think I'm absolutely right. And she goes, "You're so weird." Because what have we become? So they didn't know Richard. Marlon Soto of CID, he didn't do his homework because what he was telling me was so absurd to the Richard that we know, that we knew that Richard had been murdered. And it's the same thing with Sammy. He would say things to us or try to twist our mind to think that Richard was doing things that we know, and it's like, okay, you can think that if you want because you don't know Richard, but we know Richard, and we're not going to argue with you. We'll let you look in that area, but we're going to keep looking for evidence for what we believe and know is true. And we were right all along, and he was wrong. He was wrong, and we were right all along. And the judge is right. The judge is right all along, and that's why they've retaliated against him, um, or kept him from looking at the files. And that's all due in part to Major General Eisenhower. He's the rotten one. He needs to be held accountable. He really does. I know. Thank you so much. Good evening. Good evening, Mama Halliday. Thank you so much. And Anicia, thank you so much for coming on a Friday night, burning the midnight oil here in South Carolina. For you, it's a little bit earlier. But thank you so much. And you see, it's all coming, everything is connecting. And you have military officers behind the Real Fit Fam El Paso. You have the registered agent being a military officer, right? The brothers being military officers and always like, "Oh, they're the man behind the curtain. Oh, they're the mystery." And here they are, officers. And there's more. There's more to it, y'all. Um, because it's really pointing to Dallas Hart. It's really pointing to Ernest Christopher Grant. It's really pointing to others. And there seems to be a real operation behind this, the Real Fit Fam El Paso. So what does that mean? It means that the general officers are allowing this breach in security. And it's a breach in security that causes all these trafficking problems, right? That causes all of these crimes. It's a breach in security. They're allowed to bring the girls onto Fort Bliss during the COVID lockdown. They're allowed to bring these weapons in and not have them registered. They're allowed to bring these drugs in. They're allowed to take the equipment off, you know, traffic the equipment, smuggle, whatever. Remember that one weapon that was right in the middle of Fort Bliss laying in an intersection? This rifle, and they're like, how did that get there? Oh yeah. Um, Absolutely. They're allowing what? The breaches in security. So this is what we have to really, really fight against, because we pay for security, the cameras, the guards, rightfully so, because that is our assets, our equipment, our defense, our national defense, and we want that secure. And they have allowed a breach in security for profit. That's what that FitFam El Paso shows. A breach in security for profit. And if they're going to allow it for the media, then they are allowing it for the traffickers. That's how it's all, because why do you have to have a breach in security for the media, for the way narratives get out there, unless it was to divert people's attention or to cover up against the trafficking crimes? Tuganan Chan, right? Officer Tuganan Chan, he was the emergency response officer, and he was one of those in charge of the emergency intake center. He was the emergency response, a real world emergency response for the Walmart mass shooting, for the COVID mandates. He talks about that openly. When you start thinking about this, and for us, it takes me a little bit, it takes me a couple days, because then we have to sit there and write it down. We have to write it down. I have this notebook here. We write it down, then we type it in, and then we have to edit. And it's, and so by the time you finally get to something that is as truthful as you possibly can give the public, and then when you post it, you have to edit it. It's like you want to give the apps, you want to be so careful to give the truth. Right? Because we're under scrutiny from the deceivers. So by the time you do that, your mind understands what's going on more than if you just kind of heard it off the cuff from a live stream like this. And that's why it's so important to share this information and discuss it with people and say, look, this is about security breaches, and security breaches to a media, a for-profit media, right? To control narratives, to control people. Like, let's say this one group is starting to get it, and they're starting to disseminate uh, some information that you don't want out. Well, then FitFam El Paso has the power to put up a story that is very negative, to defame that person, to discredit that person, to smear that person or that entity or that entity. Let's say it's a little company or something like that, and they don't want to pay these taxes because it's breaking them. They don't want to do the COVID mandates because it's breaking them. Well, they can put up something really negative on a very powerful social media site and ruin them. And if they don't ruin them, they harm them. And then that entity, that person might say, "Take that down. That's not right. You're lying about me." Well, give me $5,000 and I'll take it down. And then it makes a room for extortion. And this is done with officers in the military behind the scenes. That's what needs to be investigated. That's the question. That's what needs to be investigated. Because they absolutely had security clearances. They're officers. And they absolutely breached security within the media, which shows a pattern. Because we know that Fort Bliss is breached. And we know that Richard, now they admitted that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. And so that means all the security, the cameras were breached, the guards were breached, the investigation was breached, all the security was breached. And that's why this has happened in the first place, and that's why this has gone on for so long. And that's why then you have a judicial officer making a whistleblower's complaint, and you have the other media concerned that helps us. That's pretty evil. And then the general blocks the judicial officer's access because he has the credentials to Richard's files on Fort Bliss. That's very evil. Because it could all be over with. Could all be over with. And it's just talking to people. Because of Park University, because the judicial officer used to work at Park University and be in connection with all the soldiers. And of course, we had the soldier that, came to us during our one of our rallies. And, you just have people reaching out to us. That's how we found out that Carlos Mendez was we had to look into it, was a fake soldier, stolen valor. But so we have people, we have intelligence telling us that, we really love this judicial officer. He helped me get out of some problems. So as long, but as soon as he helped Richard, and I shouldn't say Richard, I should say Richard's case. I should say our family, to get the truth about Richard. Then he became targeted. He became a target. And by who? By Bob Moore and by Major General Eisenhower. So I think that is, and another person too, and another lawyer. But anyway, um, we're working very, very hard to get to the truth, to get to Richard's remains. And I think we've done pretty good at holding on to his character and making sure everyone knew what a wonderful what a wonderful son that we have. And now it's really working for those people in El Paso that can't get justice, and for our service members on Fort Bliss that are still under the leadership um, that are willing to sell out our soldiers, willing to sell out our national security, willing to sell out, willing to have all these security breaches. Um, no, we need to hold them accountable. And I hope that makes sense. And we've turned in more information. Um, so we are officially whistleblowers now. We've been whistleblowers, but we're officially whistleblowers now. Um, yeah. So thank you so much. And we will be back on tomorrow, God willing. And this is so important to share. And maybe you can say it better than I do, explain it better than I do about this security breaches, because I think that that's very, very important for everyone to know. The Because we pay so much money to have security, and yet all we have is one security breach after the other. So thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye bye.